Hello and welcome to the 12 days of Craftmas. This is day 1. Okay, day 1, let's get started. First of all, we're going to have a very quick look at some tools and supplies that we would recommend that you have in order to put together your 12 days of Craftmas book Nook. Now, as we said, most of the supplies that you need are included in the bundle itself. So you've got the Nook, you've got the dies, you've got the pattern paper and the foil fusion. There are some other things though that we do recommend that you have. So some basic cardstock. Now I have just literally run through the craft room upstairs and grabbed a bunch of different things, and this is really going to come down to your personal preference and how you want your book Nook to look. Some of the things I would recommend that you have though, I have some 300 GSM here, just some plain white 300 GSM. This is very important for the kind of main central structure of your book Nook, which is that archway that sits across the center. So something very strong like this is recommended. And then from there on out, I just have a whole array of classic and mirror and glitter options, and even some pearlescence as well. So this, like I said, is really going to come down to your own personal preference, the kind of colours that you want to have in your Nook. I've got some very classic Christmas colours, some reds, some greens, some golds, a little bit of white in there. And like I said, I've got both classic card, I've got mirror card, I've got glitter, I've even got some specialty card in the middle of here, some nice snowbound. I was thinking of my little snowman, that maybe he will look good in that. And then some pearlescent in black and white as well. So some kind of cardstock will be needed to make all of like the little extra pieces that go in and around your book Nook. I also have then an assortment of decorative things. So I have in here some glitter accents. If you want to add any kind of like snowfall or things like that to your book Nook, this would be fantastic. And then I just grabbed an assortment of drops that I thought might be handy. So again, I've got a couple of reds, maybe for berries. I've got some greens, I've got some gold and various different glitters. And of course, the very, very classic ivory seashell in case we need any little pearls too. You are of course going to need some glue. I would recommend some deluxe adhesive wet glue of choice. Probably a great idea for this. So that is like my extra little decorative pieces. And we do have foil fusion sheets in your book Nook pack, so you are going to need some foil as well. These are the colours that we currently have available. So we have polished gold, chrome silver, rose gold, ruby red and emerald green. If you want to foil the outside cover of your book Nook, I'm using the foil fusion sheets, then you will need some kind of foil, one of these colours, or maybe you want to do it multicoloured. That would look great too. So you're going to need some foil. Other decorative things that I have to hand then, I do have over here an entire tote of ink. Right, let me see if I can actually lift this in. Oh! So if you want to add any inky accents to any of your pieces, you're going to want some ink, some blending brushes would probably be a good idea, and then I've also got some daubers as well. These are very, as you can see, well labelled daubers to go with all of the colours of ink that we have. For adding any like extra texture and detail and accents, some ink and some ink application tools would be a brilliant idea. So a couple of tools that I'm going to recommend then. I've got a pair of scissors. I have a precision glide folder. I have a craft pick, and I also have a craft knife. To go along with that knife, I do also have a self-healing mat as well. Probably at some point we will end up using some hot glue, so I've got my hot glue gun plugged in but not switched on yet. And of course we are going to need to cut some paper and cardstock, so I have a precision trimmer that I've got here, and both with my cutting blade and scoring blade on it. Finally, of course, we are going to be doing some die cutting, so you are going to be needing your die cutting machine as well. Okay then, let's get on with building our book Nook. So the very first thing that we are going to do is actually add the foiling to the outside of the cover. A couple of things I'm going to recommend that you do here. If you are in a climate where you need air conditioning, this is the point that you want to turn that off. Trust me, being warm for a few moments and not messing up the foil on the outside of your book nook is probably preferable. Ask me how I know. This nook that you can see here, it didn't go well. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. So I'm going to start by grabbing my book nook from here and taking out the actual nook itself. So this is your book cover, effectively. I'll pop that back up on here. So I have here my book cover, and I've also got then the pack of consumable supplies, and from in here we need our foil fusion sheets, and there are 3 sheets, one for your front cover, one for your back cover, and one for your spine. So I'm going to start by taking a pair of scissors. I'm going to amend this ever so slightly. So you can see down the side we have the sentiments. I'm just going to snip up the edge. Make sure you don't cut into the adhesive part. Doesn't matter if this is straight or not, because the only bit that we are bothered about is the actual adhesive that is on there. And then what I also want to do is take out these additional book titles in the back of there. And in order to do that, I'm going to bring in my self-healing mat and a craft knife, and I'm going to basically make a cut in here. So again, I'm literally just cutting very roughly around the edge of these pieces. Probably easier to turn the adhesive sheet than it is to turn the knife. Just be very, very careful. And then around the top as well. Now of course, if you want to have all of these book titles in the back of your book nook, then you can absolutely leave them in there. I'm just choosing to take them out. So lid back on my knife, and then I can pop that out of there. So now my nook will have that middle area blank. I can always pop one of these back into there if I want to, or I can add in one of these other sentiments that are off this strip instead. So I've prepped my foil fusion sheets. Now comes the point where we actually stick them down. I'm going to start with the spine in the center. So with our foil fusion, if you've never used this before, this is where I'm going to recommend that you have a precision glide folder. If you don't have one of these, a bone folder or something along those lines is going to be preferable. This is going to help you not only press the foil fusion adhesive into the surface of your book nook, but it's also then going to help you burnish the foil actually onto the adhesive afterwards as well. Okay, so like I said, air conditioning off. We don't want anything fluttering any of these sheets. We want to be able to put them down exactly where they need to go. I'm going to start by peeling the carrier sheet away. And on your adhesive part here, sorry, on the acetate is where your adhesive is. So we want to try and make sure this is lined up centrally, top to bottom and side to side across the spine. You can see the adhesive. It's kind of like a pale grey colour. So just look through that. Make sure you're happy with the positioning. And then once you're happy, you want to press that just straight down onto the surface of your nook. Now with this adhesive, as soon as it touches the surface of the nook, it sticks. Don't try and lift it back up and reposition it, because all it will do is it will pull the design off the acetate, and unfortunately it will end up ruining it. So be very careful, take your time with this part and line it up so you are very happy with it. Now that I've got that in place, I'm going to start burnishing this. So I'm going to be using this flatter edge here, and all I'm going to do is just start rubbing the adhesive over the surface of this spine. And what you'll see is that before you start pressing on this, the adhesive is kind of like a pale grey, and as you press it, it will turn the colour of the spine of the Nook. Hopefully you can actually see this colour change on camera as well. Now the other thing that I would say with this, obviously these are styled on old leather bound books. If part of your adhesive doesn't quite come through, or part of your foiling doesn't quite work, that's fine. If you think about an old book, some of that foiling is bound to have rubbed off at this point anyway. We'll just call it the passage of time and the book being aged. So I'm just pressing all the way over, making sure all of that adhesive is nicely pressed into the cover of my book Nook. If you don't like using this end, you can also use this flat part here, if you find that easier, just to press down and rub across the surface. And you want to keep going until all of it has gone from that pale grey on the acetate and has turned to be like a darker brown, like the actual surface of the Nook. Don't worry about going over areas multiple times, it's not going to affect it. You're better off going over it extra and being sure that it is definitely stuck. Try not to do that if you can as well. Yeah, going over it extra, being sure it's definitely stuck, then lifting the acetate and then it not being fully adhered. Okay, I think I'm pretty good. I don't think there's any areas on there that are not stuck, but just to be sure, I'm going to give it one last press all the way over. Okay. Now the next and possibly the most difficult decision you're going to make is what colour foil do you want to have on your book Nook. I've looked at all of the ones that we've had in so far. Gold has been very popular. I think that's probably a classic choice. We've got a couple of rose gold. We've got a red one as well. No silver and no green though. So I think I'm going to go with green. I'm going to keep it festive. I'm going to go with green foil today. So I have my roll of foil here. I'm going to measure out a piece that is tall enough to cover the spine. Normally we say to cut this with a rotary cutter, but to keep it simple today I am just going to use a pair of scissors. Just be very careful. If you drag the blade across the back of your foil, you can actually damage the part that you want to use. Just bear that in mind. Okay, so I have my foil ready to one side. Okay, here goes. I'm going to take the edge of my acetate. I'm going to start peeling it back very carefully. Now if as you're peeling this you notice any areas that haven't properly stuck, you can just go back in with your precision glide folder and give them a bit of a rub. One thing I will say as I'm doing this, be very careful as you pull this down, especially when you get to the end. If this acetate flips over, which can happen, the wrong side of the acetate, so the side that you see, if that sticks to the adhesive, it will not release again. It will pull your adhesive. So as you're getting towards the end, oh, there's a bit there that didn't quite catch. Make sure that you're supporting this part so it doesn't, ping off and flip over. That is how I ended up with the one that I did for packaging initially. It was a little bit of a saga. My first piece of foil to go on the cover, the foil creased partway through because we did still have the air conditioning on, which is why I recommend that you don't have any fans or anything like that going as you're doing this. And then yeah, as I did the spine, basically as I got to this point, the acetate kind of flicked over and stuck back down, and there was no hope. I could not rescue it and I had to patch it. So, okay, I now have exposed adhesive. I'm going to take my foil, make sure you're supporting all of it so it doesn't droop into the adhesive. And we're just going to put it straight down, smooth it across the back. And then we're going to take the rounded side this time of the Precision Glide folder, and we're just going to press the adhesive, press the foil into the adhesive. And what you'll start to see is you'll see the design kind of coming through the foil. As the foil sticks to the adhesive and lifts from its own carrier sheet, it will start to emerge on here. The screen where I can see what's on camera is very dark, so I don't know if you can actually see this yet. I'm sure Cam will give me the nod and let me know. There we go. I got a thumbs up. So again, take your time with this. Make sure that you are kind of holding the foil down. You don't want it to pucker as you are rubbing this and kind of pressing the foil onto the adhesive. But if we get the odd blemish, like I said, it's an old book. It's not going to be in pristine condition, so that's fine. It's part of the history of the project. Okay. The design is really starting to come through now. Pretty much to the bottom. And you might see like some slight scratch marks on the surface. That is absolutely fine. This foil actually has a clear, almost like a very thin acetate carrier sheet over the top. You're literally just scratching that surface. It's not going to affect the foiled finish underneath. Okay, I think that is all of it. I think we've got it all nicely foiled. Just make sure those corners are done. Those are the parts that tend to not quite catch if you miss any. Alrighty, now time for the grand reveal. So again, I'm just going to gently peel this back. And there is our foiled design on the spine. Definitely keep your foil offcuts as well. There's a lot of different things you can do with this. If you put down a sheet of double-sided adhesive, you can then press this into it and you could actually have like the inverse of a book spine. So that's something you can definitely use for another project. So at this point then, if you want to add one of the book names into these little areas on here, you can definitely do that. What shall we put onto this one? Should we do a book of festive tales? I like that. So again, I've taken my little book name, I've just snipped it down. I'm going to peel off that back sheet, and then I'm going to put this, I'm so sorry, you're probably going to get my head in shot this time, just as I look over this to make sure I get this lined up. Make sure that you're happy, and then press that on, and we're just going to press over that using the Precision Glide folder again. Once you're happy then that all of that adhesive is firmly pressed on, we're going to grab some more foil. I think I'm going to grab some red for this one. Let's do a two-tone spine, why not? Okay, I have my red foil. I have a tiny little bit actually, a notch on here I think is probably going to be the perfect size. So I'm going to snip that right the way across there. And once again, I'm going to very, very carefully lift up the acetate and peel that away from the adhesive. And then press the foil straight over the top. And once again, using that glide folder, just going to rub the foil carefully until I'm happy that it is all pressed in. Okay, and peel that one back, and there we go. That is our Book Nook spine, all beautifully foiled. So let's move on then and get the front done. Start with the spine. It's the smaller piece, kind of get the feel for it. These are obviously much larger foil fusion sheets than you're probably used to working with. A lot of our other designs have been a lot smaller, and this is it's a little bit more nerve-wracking. Just imagine that you're having to do this on video and hope that you don't mess it up. Okay, once again, I'm going to try and make sure I'm even side to side and also top to bottom. I think that looks good. And press. And then we go back in again and we repeat exactly the same process. So with your larger sentiment in the middle here, it is a much finer spray of the adhesive. So just pay extra attention to really making sure that that part is well pressed in. If you want to, you can go in with the very sort of end of the glide folder. Just try not to press too hard because you obviously want to dent the cover of your Book Nook. But if this gives you a little bit more control over just pressing over that writing, then do use that. Okay, there we go. So is my next foil fusion sheet all ready to go. I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'm going to take my green foil, measure out a piece that is going to be big enough for the entire area, and snip that off. Okay, so with my foil to one side ready to go, now it is time to take off the acetate. And again, nice and slowly and gently peel this back, making sure that it doesn't flick over. And once you are ready, I am going to turn this around. I didn't think I was going to, but no, I am. It's just easier. Again, supporting all of the corners of your foil and then just pressing it straight down over the adhesive. And in exactly the same way, I'm going to take my precision glide folder again and burnish the foil onto the adhesive. Okay, there we go. I am happy now that all of my foil is nicely burnished onto my adhesive. So again, I'm just going to very gently peel this back and reveal the design. Okay, you should be feeling very accomplished at this point. We've got 2 panels down, beautifully foiled. 1 more to go. So last panel then, and this is the one where I've cut out the center with those additional book names. If you want to leave those in, you can. Just make sure you do have it the right way up if you do that, because obviously this is already now directional. Just bear that in mind. Unless you want an Australia book, maybe you do. There you go. The spine up one way and the covers up the other. Okay, taking this off the back of here. So one thing I will mention this time, because obviously I have cut a large hole out of the center of this, it doesn't have quite the same structure integrity that the full sheets do. So you may need to hold it a little differently to support it, and try not to distort it as you are looking through it if you can. Right, okay, make sure it is lined up. Once you're happy, pop it down, and then we're just going to repeat this all over again. There we go, last reveal then. And our cover is done. So that is the end of day 1 for you. You now have your beautiful foiled book nook ready for us to then continue construction on day 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for day 1, and I'll see you all again tomorrow or next month or possibly in 10 minutes, however you choose to watch these videos. Thank you again. Happy Craftmas.